Hey YouTube, welcome back again. Today we're going to be doing, well first let me introduce myself. I'm Benjamin Williams, and today we're going to be doing a Boson NetSim network simulator lab within OSPFv3 address family configuration. So the objective for this lab is to learn how to configure Open Shortest Path First version 3 OSPFv3 address family AF configuration. And this is the lab topology that we have. We have two routers and both of their fast Ethernet 00 ports are connected to each other. So we're going to be doing OSPF today. And I'm not sure exactly what the differences are between the regular OSPF that I'm used to configuring, and I believe that's version 2, and OSPF v3. I know it has something to do with the actual address family, but I'm not sure the exact differences between those two. I know OSPF is a IGP, so it would be run inside of an autonomous system. So within a single, under a single administrative domain. It is a link state database routing protocol. So all of the routers within the same area will have the same LSDB, and they will exchange LSAs. The actual network statement can be configured to share the routes, or it can be done on a per interface basis as well. So that's a little bit of what I know about OSPF. Let's go ahead and get into our lab task. So down here at the bottom, of course, is where we're going to be doing all of our CLI commands. The top left, we're going to keep the topology right here. And then top right, we're going to be doing our lab task. So it says this task involves configuring OSPF v3 and analyzing basic OSPF v3 show commands. All steps in this task are performed on router 1. So we're already on router 1. It says create an OSPF v3 routing process with ID number 1. So on router 1, let's get into privilege exec mode. Let's do a conf t to enter global config. And let's do a router OSPF. And of course, since we're doing v3, let's add that. Let's get some context sensitive. And we're going to do process number 1 like it wants. And now we're in OSPF v3 configuration mode. So it says configure the router ID to be 1.1.1.1. So let's do router. Let's get some context sensitive help. Okay, router ID like that. And we're going to do a 1.1.1.1. Should be it. Yes. So it says issue the appropriate show command to observe and verify the running config. So let's do a do show run. Let's see what we have going on in our running config. And right here we can see OSPF v3 number 1, and we can see our router ID of 1.1.1.1. So we did everything correct from there. It says from interface configuration mode, enable OSPF v3 for the IPv4 address family area 0 on interface fast Ethernet 00 and loopback 0. Review the changes to the running config. So it looks like we need to go into interface configuration mode for fast Ethernet 00. So let's do interface fast Ethernet 00, changing the interface config mode. And let's do a OSPF. Is this? Yeah, OSPF v3 process number 1. Oh, well, yeah, process number 1. And it should be IPv4. And area, it wants it to be in area 0. Okay, I think that's right. Let's go into interface loopback 0 and give the same commands that we just gave. So OSPF v3, if I can spell right, OSPF v3 number 1. It should be for the IPv4 address family. And we're going to be doing area 0. So that may be the difference right there when I was talking about what the differences is between regular OSPF and OSPF v3. Maybe you have to do the configuration with OSPF v3 through the actual address family like we're doing right here on a per interface basis. I'm not sure if the network statement works, but I can actually answer that question myself. Let's do a router. It just got me thinking a little bit. So let's do a router OSPF v3. Well, yeah, router OS. Well, let me do an exit just to make sure I'm typing everything correctly. Let's do a router OSPF v3 process number 1. And let's see if we can do the net. So you can't do the network command with OSPF v3. So that may be the difference between regular OSPF and OSPF v3. So I think I answered my own question there, which is always good. You can always figure stuff out with the CLI, just playing through it like I am now, and you just figure out things. That's why I love Boson. But let's get back to the actual, let's focus up. It says review the changes to the running config. So let's do a do show run, and let's see what we have here. So we have our OSPF v3 process ID 1 for the IPv4 address family for area 0, and we did it on the fast Ethernet 00 interface as well. So yep, same configuration right there. So I think we're good, and we have our regular stuff that we configured earlier. So let's do it says from interface configuration mode. Okay, let me make sure I did everything right. It says issue the appropriate show commands to verify that interface 00 and fast Ethernet 00 and loopback 0 are configured to run OSPF v3 for the IPv4 address family. So yes, I see the configuration right here. And I also seen, when I first configured it, I seen a neighborship come up, I believe. Let me make sure that neighborship came up. I think I seen that in the CLI somewhere, but maybe it's going to be hard to find. Okay, right here. So we have an adjacency that came up with router with the ID of 2.2.2.2. So I'm guessing that'd be R2 from the topology router 2. And then it says from interface configuration mode, enable OSPF v3 for the IPv6 address family area 0 on interface fast Ethernet 00 and loopback 0. Review the changes to the running config. So let's go back down and let's exit out of OSPF router configuration mode, and let's move into interface fast Ethernet 00 again, and let's do a OSPF v3 process ID 1. We're going to do it for IPv6 this time, and for area 0. Now let's go into interface loopback 0, and let's do the same thing. OSPF v3 process ID, if I can spell right, OSPF v3, having a hard time typing today. Number 1, IPv6 area 0. All right, so let's review the changes to the running config, and we just seen our adjacency come up, which is always good. And it's in the full state, which is what we want. So let's do a do show run, and we can see now that we have OSPF v3 for process ID number 1 for the IPv6 group for area 0, and that's on the loopback 0 interface, and same thing for our fast Ethernet 00 interface. So we have that correct. So now let's do, it says issue the appropriate show command to verify that interface fast Ethernet 00 and loopback 0 are configured to run OSPF v3 for IPv6 address family. So I think we just verified that right here. But let's do end to get back to previous exec mode, and let's see if we can do a show OSPF, because maybe it wants me to do something else. Show OSPF v3, and we can do it on a per interface basis, I believe. So let's do interface brief, and let's see what it says. Yep. So we can see right here that the interfaces have been configured with the right process ID, the right area, and you can also see the fast Ethernet and loopback 0 interfaces being for the IPv4 address family and the IPv6 address family. We can see the states, from it being either a DR, the designated router, the backup designated router, or the loop, and I believe that's for DR other, or maybe it's just the loopback interface as it is on a loopback interface. I'm not sure the specific about what that means. Maybe that's just because it is on a loopback interface. But let's now do it says issue the appropriate show command to verify that the neighbor adjacency has formed on fast Ethernet 00. So we can do a show OSPFv3, and we can do neighbor. Neighbor. And yes, so you can see the interface right here, the fast Ethernet 00 interface. It's with R2 router 2.2.2.2. We're in the full state, and it looks like router R2 is the DR, and that will probably be because it has the higher router ID. It has a router ID of 2.2.2.2. So that's that adjacency command. And then it wants me to do, it says issue the appropriate show command to observe the OSPFv3 database. So we want to see our LSDB. So let's do a show OSPFv3 and database. And we have our LSDB here. It looks like we have our router LSAs, our network LSAs right here. So yes, everything is looking correct there. Everything is looking correct there. So it says issue the appropriate show commands to observe the IP routing table. So let's do a show IP route. And we see our OSPF route right here to router 2.2.2.2 with the administrative distance of 110, which matches up with OSPF. It has a metric of 2. And you can see that to get to the 2.2.2.2 network, we would be forwarding out of the fast Ethernet 00 interface. So everything looks good in there. So it says verify connectivity with router 2 by issuing a ping, which we just looked at our IP routing table. So we know we should be able to ping 2.2.2.2 because we have a route to it. So ping 2.2.2.2, and everything works as expected. All pings are successful. So that's this lab on OSPFv3. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.